Prime subcontracting secrets. The number one secret: there is no such thing as a middleman. I know that's not what you heard. That's not what you've been indoctrinated to believe, but there is no such thing as a middleman. And I'm going to tell you why. It could literally hurt your ability to continue to win government contracts if you don't understand your role and responsibility as a federal government contractor, even a state government contractor in a prime position. I'm Michelle Brown, and in this video, I will walk you through your main priorities for being successful as a prime and continuing to win to build your multi-million dollar enterprise. So let's get into it. The term middleman is just a hype term. There is no one in the middle. There's no one in the middle. The term middleman is designed to make you believe that all you need to do is win the contract with your subcontractor's information, and you don't have to do any work. First of all, that's against the law. The concept is not true to its name. It makes no sense, especially when you realize, basically, there is no one in the middle. The prime and subcontractor relationship is demonstrated here. The subcontractor reports to you and only you. It is not ever likely that the contracting officer or the Corps will ever speak to your subcontractor. They're basically invisible, the subcontractor is, not to you, but to the government, because they don't care how you get the job done as long as you do the job. And it's important for you to understand that your subcontractor should never talk to the government. They should never talk to the contracting officer or the Corps on your behalf. If they do, that's not good. You are the primary, secondary communicator with the federal government and the contracting officer. That is how this works. You are the 51%er. You have all of the responsibility. You cannot set it and forget it. That's not how it works. And that's why, technically, there is no middleman. Now, I do want to ask you before we go further, what has been your experience, and do you have any questions for me? Because I have an entire series that I'm going to do on this middleman concept, demonstrating for you why it does not work, why it is not real, but it is catchy. I know why you like it. I can see why it makes sense, but it's not realistic. And you could lose contracts if you're thinking that the middleman is going to handle everything. That's not how it works. I want you to download my checklist for you as a prime working with subcontractors. Binding contracts. You have a contract with the federal government. The contracting officer is in charge of that contract. They may assign other people for you to work with, but the contract is between you and the federal government. You need to remember that and act as though you understand that. The federal government legally allows us to work with subcontractors, but if the subcontractor does not perform well, the subcontractor is not going to be blamed. It will be you. You cannot set this up and think everything is going to work smoothly. Some of you are winning hundreds of thousands of dollars in government contracts, not just with one contract, but with multiple. And if you think that you can win these contracts and walk away, you could be in serious trouble. So remember, you are it. You're the head honcho. You're the big boss. You're the prime. And that's the only way the government looks at it. Not to mention, you are a small business. You are responsible for 51% of the work. This is how the large companies do it. This is why they manage everything. But they use subcontractors, as they've used a lot of small businesses over the many years. Most of these large primes, they never do the work themselves. They always hire other businesses to do it. They win the big bucks. You cannot think that you're going to win the big bucks and you are not responsible for your portion of the contract. You need to master the art of working with subcontractors to win multiple prime government contracts. You're the prime and you want to continue to grow your business this way. You need to understand there are some skills that you must master to grow your empire. And that's what I want to teach you. Winning prime contracts using subcontractors is serious business. It may look easy. Some of you win easily, and that's great. But it's not good if you win easily and you don't know what your next steps are. You and only you are responsible for the contract. You must perform 51% of the contract. And I'm going to tell you how you'll do that. It's not as difficult as it seems. It's part of your business, leadership, and management skills. And if you don't have those yet, you can develop them. I have multiple clients in my programs that do this, and they have 10, 15, 20 contracts. And that can be you. So you can do this. Also, you need to remember it is a crime for you not to be involved in managing the contract. Now, what are the four main responsibilities? The four main responsibilities are effective communication, managing the subcontractor, record keeping, and then also managing the requirements of the actual job. That would be the scope of work. You will become a natural at doing these four main responsibilities. What are those responsibilities? Number one, you must provide consistent and effective communication with the contracting officer or the core that is assigned. You must also do the same with the subcontractor. This doesn't mean you have to be on the phone every day with either the contracting officer or the sub, but you must be in control. You are the leader. Number two, you must manage the subcontractor's activities, the tasks they are to complete, when the job is completed, when the job starts. All of those things are your responsibility. You must be able to communicate this information at any time if you are asked by the contracting officer. You do not want the contracting officer managing you. You must manage the sub and manage the contracting officer. You report information even if they do not ask. Number three, you must keep consistent records. You must have documentation for all major events. As an example, know when the project starts. Know when the project is scheduled to end. Most of this is in the scope of work for the contract. Keep that scope of work available so that you can make sure that you're covering these things with your subcontractor. You are the key to this project being successful. The subcontractor does not have to do any of these things to represent you. Now, will they do these things to represent themselves so that they can get paid? Of course, but they don't have to share their information with you. They will, because if you understand how business communication works, you would expect them to tell you some things. But you also need to understand that there are things they're not going to tell you unless you ask. So this is why it's important for you to understand you are the boss. You are the boss with the subcontractor, but you're also the boss with the contracting officer. You need to understand the beginning and the end of the project, how it will be done, what the timeline looks like. And most importantly, you will need to submit the invoices, which is what you expect, but you cannot submit an invoice that needs more detail if you do not have the detail. Number four, you are responsible for negotiating any challenges to the project. That would mean if you're not on schedule, you don't wait until something happens before you report this to the contracting officer or the core. You need to renegotiate terms if at all necessary. What if the pricing is a little bit off? You have the right to go back to the contracting officer to say, we did not have this information at the beginning of the project, therefore the timeline is going to change, and therefore this affects pricing. Now, there's a whole nother conversation about that, but the fact of the matter is there will be some changes in some cases, not all. You would like things to be the way that they're supposed to go, but sometimes they're not perfect. And there may be changes to the requirements. The contracting officer could also change the requirements. So you are in charge of meetings, conversations. You need to be the driver of all four of these areas. That is the point of you being the prime, and that is the responsibility that goes along with making the big bucks, as they say. And don't forget to download your checklist in the comment sections.